Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to kick off this fourth and final pre-orientation for families virtually before hopefully most of you are able to join us on campus in Paris for your students' orientation as well as your own. Donna, I think we have another excellent session ahead of us. Is that right?
I think so too. I think this is going to be fantastic. Actually, I say this to every single one of them, but this is my favorite one. This is the one where we talk about what is going to happen when you land in Paris or when your student comes to Paris and what they can expect and kind of how the school year is going to start. So I love it.
You'll get a great overview from me and my colleagues today. And I think we'll dive right in as we're already a few minutes into the session. I thank you all for being here with us today. As I said, for this fourth and final session of virtual pre-orientation. My name is Kilian Ordelheide. I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach at AUP. And we're so excited to welcome you and your students on campus in just a few days. If this is your first time joining us for one of these virtual pre-orientation sessions, no need to worry. All three previous sessions were recorded, and the recordings are available on the orientation page on the AUP website. My colleagues will also put the link for that in the chat so that you have an opportunity to see that. If you have any questions throughout this webinar today, feel free to put them in the Q&A section at the bottom or probably top of your Zoom screen. We'll try to get to those as soon as possible. And if there's additional ones that we don't get to during this call, we'll try to answer them for you via email later on. Now, we're fully aware that this is a stressful time. You're embarking on an exciting new journey with your student as a family. You should know that obviously we are well prepared as you're embarking on this journey. Me and my colleagues have welcomed thousands of families in recent years, and the focus of all the staff members on campus at this point is only on ensuring that your orientation experience and that of your student, as well as their adaptation to life in Paris, goes as smoothly as possible. That being said, we cannot guarantee that there won't be a little hiccup here and there. AUP is welcoming its largest ever incoming class this fall, which is incredibly exciting, but obviously also presents its challenges. So while we're prepared for the start of the semester and we're excited to welcome you, I just want to make sure that as you arrive, you understand that if something doesn't go perfectly, that it definitely wasn't intentional and that we will try to fix that as soon as we can. As for today, as Dana mentioned at the beginning of the session, we will be talking about landing day as well as giving you a thorough orientation overview. With me here today are several of my colleagues. As always, you will get to hear from our one-woman army, Dana Callahan, your family relations manager. Please keep in mind that Dana is not just interacting with close to 800 new families that are joining us this fall, but also with the families of continuing students. So please be patient as her and my colleagues will try to get to your questions via email or in the chat today as soon as possible. With us is also Siham Muadid, our manager of residential life. She manages AUP's own residences as well as all of our partner residences for AUP's incoming students. She also manages the housing search process for graduate and returning students through the AUP database, and generally works with colleagues of various offices and across the campus to ensure that student safety and well-being is our top priority across housing accommodations across Paris. Also with us is Jan Lewis, our student development coordinator. Students will get to know Jan quickly during orientation and beyond, as he is at the student development help desk and really helps students with everything to do with student life, from banking to Metro cards, phones, and other issues. So he will oftentimes be the first stop for your student if they're encountering anything that they can resolve by themselves. He also coordinates the student advisor program that pairs a student advisor with your student for orientation and beyond, and helps with the coordination of orientation. So he's really knowledgeable about everything that your student is about to embark on in the next few days. Finally, with us today is also Delaney Callahan, the daughter of our family relations manager, Dana. Delaney is a junior, and she's also a student advisor this year. So she will share the upcoming experience for your student, how student advisors support your student, and also her own perspective from her experience when she first arrived at AUP. So without any further ado, I will leave you in the capable hands of my colleague, Dana Callahan. Dana, over to you.
All right, thank you, Killian, and thank you all for joining us. I know that we're at Wednesday. Arrival is Saturday and Monday, so we're coming down to it. So I know a lot of you we have quite a few of you that are already here. But those of you that are coming this weekend, we wish you safe travels and easy travels. We're going to start with Jan. Will you give us kind of an overview of what it looks like on landing day? If we have students that are arriving at the airport on their own, or if we have students that are arriving with their families, can you go over the shuttle and kind of what to expect at the airport? And then where should students go on either Saturday the 26th or Monday the 28th, depending on their cohort?
Yes, thank you, Dana. So as you just said, there were 2 days. The first day is Saturday the 26th, and the second day is Monday the 28th. 2 days, 2 landing days. I will be at the airport both days from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a team of students helping me that day. And we will be greeting incoming students who signed up for the shuttle bus both days. So for the moment, we've got about just over 50 students who signed up. So to sign up for the shuttle bus, in the orientation checklist, each student has the option to book a place on the shuttle bus or not. Okay. The deadline for this is Friday noon French time. So you still got a bit over a day to do so. Okay. Afternoon that day, you won't be on my list. If ever I do see students show up and meet me, I'll put them on the shuttle bus. It's not ideal. How it works is I'll be at Terminal 2E all day for both days. And my helpers will bring back students to the AUP booth at 2E. And then I'll call the shuttle buses, I'll pair the students, depending on where they're going, because it's a bit complicated. They've got residences all over Paris now. And we send them directly to the residence. Now, we do get questions every semester as to families. Can they join the students? Can they have the ride on the shuttle bus? Officially, no. But if there is room on the shuttle bus, I usually send 4 students max per shuttle bus because they have a lot of luggage. If there's room, then usually I try to squeeze in the parents so they can go with their children. If that's not possible, we're going to ask you to take a taxi and join your daughter or son at the residence directly.
I'm muted. Okay, perfect. So if a family is arriving on Saturday or Monday, they don't need to go to Combs. They need to go directly to their residence.
Exactly. So the shuttle buses will drop them off directly at their residence.
Perfect.
They won't go to Combs.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to turn to Ms. Siham, and we're going to talk about what does check-in at our residences look like. So can you kind of give us an idea of what does check-in look like this year?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. We had dispatch over the day of Saturday and Monday in all different residences that we have, which we have about 20 locations across Paris for our incoming students. All of our housing staff is all hands on deck for that day, but there is 5 of us, so clearly that's not enough. So we enlist the help of other like colleagues who volunteer to help, of student advisors, all of them working through the Saturday and Monday to help us welcome students into the residences, as well as the on-site staff for partner residences. So in apartment hotels, that will be the front desk and the residence manager are aware of the arrival of our students and their arrival dates. And in the French student residences, our RAs the residence manager are also on site to help with that process. So it's kind of this network, this busy hive that is waiting to welcome you into the residence. You will have received last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, a welcome email that is specific to you and to your arrival in your residence. This is important to look through and to read through. It has been sent to the home email we had on file for the student, your AUP, or the AUP email on file we had for the student, as well as the FRP, so financially responsible person, on file we had for the student. That welcome email gives all the information about the check-in hours, the available staff on site, the processes that you're going to be going through or that your student is going to be going through, and all the things to look out for. Those emails, again, are specific to the student, to their arrival date, and to their residence, because obviously we have very different types of residences with different staffing available. So we've adapted each one to make sure that your student gets the welcome that they deserve. In general, though, for that first day, from the student perspective and from your perspective, really the goal is 3 things. Get to Paris safely, which we're excited to have you. Check off all the important administrative steps that we need on our end in housing to be able to consider your student checked in, and settle and rest ahead of a very packed and busy orientation day. So in that sense, there will not be specifically programming on that day, because really the goal is for your student to get into their housing, to complete their administrative steps, and to be able to start unpacking. Over the course of that weekend and the following days of orientation, they will have more opportunities to see their peers, whether it's their peers in their residence or in their advising groups or on campus. But really that first day, it's a moment of meditation and resting and getting into your housing. Some of the administrative steps that I've been mentioning have to do with, in AUP residences, leases, which are very important because the signing of the lease is what provides housing insurance to the student, and housing insurance is a legal requirement for the student as a tenant. In apartment hotels and French student residences, there will be a document, a contract to solidify the student staying in that housing. In both those cases, you will have AUP staff or front desk staff or student advisors or a combination of those that walks you and your student through all of those steps. So don't fret about knowing in advance which documents are available and what they need to do and forgetting about a specific step, because that's why we have the staff there. We have the checklist, we know what to look out for. You're being gently guided through those steps to ensure that you get everything done. A walkthrough is across all residences. It's very important, is completing the walkthrough form, the inventory form, flagging anything that is already in the apartment, because that is what is tied to the security deposit return, taking photos of the apartment upon move-in before you start unpacking. And then during that day, our student advisors, RAs, staff will be walking around. You'll be able to ask them questions. You'll find them in the lobby waiting for you to ask in case you have questions. But they'll also be organizing neighborhood tours for the students towards the afternoon. And they'll announce that as the students are arriving. So through the entire experience, there's a couple of things to check off. But again, we're looking out for that on your behalf to make sure that your student is taking all the steps they need to complete their check-in administratively at the residence, and then have the information they need to then jump headfirst into orientation. The one thing that I will say that has been a common experience for us and for the students, and sometimes for parents and families, is upon arrival, no matter we've gotten the obviously questions about additional photos of specific rooms and specific apartments and units in the residences, but beyond what we've been able to provide in the website and the amenities email that you will have received with specific information about what is included, it's very difficult for students to start visualizing the space before they arrive, right? But the imaginary is building. With the jet lag and the stress and the anxiety and sometimes a little bit of the worry of, okay, so this is where I'm staying now, and then my parents, if they're with me, are gonna go home, and then I'm gonna stay here. Those mixed feelings of just trepidation and anticipation for Paris and the year might translate into, this is not the room I thought I was going to have, right? And that's completely normal, because you're arriving at a new place that is meant to become your new home for students. Our student advisors, our staff, everyone is here to help calm those anxieties, because part of it is just the unknown. You don't know what your neighborhood looks like. You don't know where you're going to buy your groceries. That's included in neighborhood tour. Parents, families might have anxieties as well about leaving their child and going back home, and the college experience, and it's brand new. We're there as well for you. You can talk to us. You can ask us questions about the residents. You can ask the student advisors questions about AUP. You can try to start to get a sense of what your students' experience might be like and all the different opportunities that are available to them. But the big thing to remember is that the first impression or the first arrival in the residence is just the first step towards them building what their residential experience is going to be like, because their residence and their residential experience is not their room. It's their room. It's what they end up doing in it. It's what they do at AUP on campus before they head back to their residence at the end of the day, and how that is going to shape their evenings and how they're resting, recharging social batteries. It's the favorite restaurant that they find in the neighborhood that is the quick and easy meal if they don't feel like cooking. It's the people that they're going to meet in the hall. It's their RA if they have one, their residence representative if they have one. It's all those different things. So it's really just a drop in the bucket of the residential life experience. And what we try to do is make that first step as smooth as possible, so that they can focus on embarking on the next journey, which is orientation, which is building community in their residences, which is meeting their peers. And that is a little glimpse of what Landing Day is going to look like.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some questions. So I'm gonna lob some questions at you, Siham, and we're gonna go ahead and answer some of these live. All right, so let's start with students that are slated for move-in on Monday but are arriving on Saturday. Can they move in early? Can they take the shuttle and move in early if they are supposed to move in on Monday but will be in town earlier?
Unfortunately not, and it's because the number of staffing that we have in the residences is based on the number of students that we know are arriving on those dates that were slotted to arrive on those dates. So it really puts strain on our resources, and we might end up not being able to move in students properly if we have too many people. So I know there's anticipation about obviously getting into the residence, but I do ask that you have some patience and wait until your allotted move-in day.
Perfect. Thank you. So is it okay if our child stays with the parent on the night of the 28th and then checks into the apartment on the 29th? So that would be another Monday question.
Yes.
So check in a day late.
I would recommend having them at least check in on Monday. If they
Yes.
want to spend the night with the parent, that's totally fine. But going through the process of checking in and going potentially on a neighborhood tour with other people who have checked in on that same day, I think that's an important experience for them to have. If they then want to have one last night in the same residence as their parents, that's completely understandable. The other thing to keep in mind is that Saturday 26th and Monday 28th are the 2 days where we have staff in the residences during those check-in times. The rest of the time, we're not manning the residences. We're on campus, obviously, assisting students with any issues that may have come up or questions or things like that. So if the student does not check in on the Monday, they would have to come to campus to complete their check-in. And at that point, they have orientation, and it's very important that they attend their sessions. So I would say check in on a Monday. You can spend the night with your parents, and then afterwards go back to the residence.
And go back to the residence. Perfect. What happens if someone arrives after check-in, say on Saturday, if they arrive after 4 p.m. on Saturday?
So you will see in your welcome email, there are very specific late arrival procedures. Everything should be included in there. But for students who are arriving, meant to arrive on the Saturday, you will have your orientation starting with a retreat on Sunday. If you are arriving past check-in times, there will no longer be staff in the residence to check you in. So you will need to find alternative accommodation through a hotel. I've included a link in the welcome email to hotels that work with AUP that give a discount to AUP students. If you know your flight is already coming in late, I would recommend booking in advance. If you experience a delay, we've also included in the welcome email the hotline number for AUP, which is manned by like an AUP senior staff member in case you need assistance in finding that alternative housing. The next day at the retreat, you go straight to the retreat, you participate in the activities that are there with your peers, and at the end, you will be guided to how to check in right after the retreat directly at your residence. If you're arriving on Monday, it looks a little bit different. The next day, you're coming to campus to check in.
Perfect. If two roommates are arriving on Saturday and 2 roommates arrive on Monday, how does that work with choosing rooms, et cetera, choosing beds, et cetera?
Beds are pre-assigned. We need to do that to keep our own organizational things. So when you come in, we'll tell you exactly where you're supposed to go.
Perfect. And if your roommate has moved in earlier, can you go and see the space with your roommate? So if someone checks in on Saturday, but you're not checking in until Monday, can you go see the space to maybe go look for things that you might need?
You can visit the space, but it'll have to be accommodated through with your roommate. So chat with your roommate and you can be their guest for that day. But it's very important. What we do ask is that you do not spend the night in your residence until you've officially checked in, because again, ties into insurance. There's legal reasons there. But yeah, if your roommate is around and can let you in, then feel free to take a peek.
Awesome. What is provided in the dormitories or in the rooms? What do we have a list of that somewhere that people can see? I believe that might be on our residents on the housing checklist choosing page.
Yeah, you will have gotten an amenities and pack-in email. That tells you specifically in your residence what is provided, in your room what is provided, and what you should pack. If you're having trouble locating that email, let us know. We can find the email we sent you and resend it to you.
Perfect. Also, to be clear, when we say you, we are actually referencing your children. Your students will have this on their AUP status page. We have not actually sent this information directly to parents. So check in with your students on what their AUP status page under housing and under arrival looks like. Okay, hold on. I'm scrolling through. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a hard time multitasking, Killian. I'm going to ask you to jump in and help me multitask because I'm like, oh my gosh. I do actually want to throw a question to Delaney really quickly. I know I'm kind of throwing her under the bus a little bit. One of the questions that we got is, what do we need to help them settle? So Delaney, when you arrived in Paris in the fall of 2021 and we went to I didn't go to your apartment, when your dad took you to your apartment and got you checked in, what was something that you wanted to do first off to make you feel a little more settled in your apartment?
I'm trying to think back. I think one of the things that immediately helped me feel more at home and feel more settled was putting up the decorations that I had either brought with me or wanted to purchase once I got there. So obviously I wasn't able to bring much, but pretty much immediately after I got into the room, I had my dad help me decide where everything was going to look best. And we made a list of other things that I wanted to get to make the room feel more like me, not just some room that I just moved into. And at the same time, we hit other necessities like storage solutions. I got a clothing rack to extend the storage that was given to me. And yeah, it really made a big difference. Even though it maybe wasn't the most practical step to do decorations first, it certainly helped. And it made me feel more connected to the place I had just shown up in.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Jan, I'm going to ask you some shuttle questions. Okay, yep. So student has signed up for the shuttle bus but hasn't received a confirmation. Is that something that's coming?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on Friday, I'm going to send an email to every student who signed up with all the directions, everything they need to know about the landing, where I will be personally. I'll give them my phone number, my email address. They should be met at the arrival gate, but just in case it can happen, you know, they don't see the greeter there, they'll know where I am and they'll have my phone number just in case they're a bit lost in the airport.
Perfect. Okay, so that does lead to the second question that I had for you, which is if a student is arriving at a different terminal than you're at, they'll be able to yes. Navigate themselves to you, and we'll try to have a student advisor there to greet them.
There's 3 different terminals. It's a very big airport, but as I said, I've got helpers. I'll be sending them to the different terminals. That's not an issue.
Perfect. About how long with students taking the shuttle would they need to wait for a shuttle?
So that really depends, because here it's going to be a bit more complicated in the sense that we're not going to put on the same shuttle bus somebody going to the north of Paris with somebody going to the south. So they're paired by location. And also the big roadworks at the moment on the main motorways leading to the airport. So the drivers might take a bit longer coming back to pick up students. So usually it's 1 hour maximum. It's usually between 15 minutes to an hour. It will probably be the same, but it really depends on the location, on a lot of things, on the time of arrival, because there's more traffic between 7 and 10. It depends on a lot of things.
Perfect. And then will you just confirm the terminal that you will be in?
Yes, so that'll be in the email. I'll be at Terminal 2E at the arrivals, so I'll be straight there in front of the arrivals, and that will be specified in the email that I'm going to send to all the students who signed up for the shuttle bus.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Killian, any more that I?
Yeah, there's one question. So if a student can take an airport shuttle on Saturday, even if they can't get into their residence, correct? So if their move-in is Monday, but they're arriving Saturday and have registered for the shuttle, they can take that?
Yeah, sure. So if they can't actually check into their residence They'll be staying in a hotel, I suppose. So probably we can't drop them off at the hotel, but they can be dropped off closer into Paris and then maybe take a taxi, because the shuttle bus is only going to different residences, not to hotels.
Perfect.
That's something we can arrange once at the airport.
Okay, I do see some questions regarding taxis from the airport. I will tell you that getting a taxi at the airport is actually very easy. You'll come out of baggage claim in Terminal 2E, actually in any of the terminals, and there are actually large signs that say taxi, and they are pointing you towards the taxi stands. Do not take a taxi from someone that comes up and says, "Do you need a taxi?" Please go to an official taxi stand. It's very nice with all of the improvements that they've been doing for the upcoming Olympics that it is much, much easier to find the taxi stands now. So that is fantastic.
I would add, don't pay more than €75.
Yeah.
We do have, it's rare, but we do have students who get scammed. They come back with €200 notes for the bills for the taxi. It should cost between 50, well, more like 70 to €75.
Yes, it should. And it's actually regulated by, yeah, absolutely. Siham, couple questions for you. How long does the check-in process take?
I was literally just answering that question in the chat. You should expect, if for the actual steps, the administrative stuff, about 40 minutes to an hour. For the things that you actually need to be there for and complete. The only unknown variable is if we have 10 students arrive at the same time, we might have you patiently wait for a little bit as we process each student, but the check-in itself is about 40 minutes to an hour.
Perfect. Could you also take a moment to kind of talk about the check-in process for students that are at independent living apartments or at our partner residences like the Citadines, hotels, that sort of thing?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Could you take a moment to kind of talk about the independent residences or the Citadines hotel residences, what that check-in process will look like?
The apartment hotels, you check in with the front desk, but there will be student advisors on site to help you through that, and actually accompany the student to their room and help them with the walkthrough forms that they will receive. So that's in the Citadine and Résidum apartment hotels. In the partner residences, such as Next City or the French student residences, similarly, staff and student advisors will be on site and will issue you the key themselves and take you to your studio and help you complete the walkthrough forms.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, a couple more. If flights are delayed and you miss the official time for housing move-in, that information is in their checklist. That information
in the email.
On the
email.
welcome
email.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we will absolutely have your student reach out to their admissions counselor, have your student reach out to Siham, have the information's in that, and we will do everything that we can to make that as easy a transition as possible. We know how stressful that can be. We have a question about student advisors. So student advisors should be connecting with your students shortly. Jan, do you want to go ahead and talk about student advisors? Actually, now would be a great time for us to talk about orientation a little bit. So let's move on to that. Let's talk a little bit about general orientation stuff.
Yeah, good transition there. So each incoming student is in an orientation group, and each orientation group has a student advisor. So their training started today, and we've asked them to contact by email. So they're going to send an email to the personal emails of each incoming student by latest tomorrow evening. So your child should have been contacted by email at the very latest by tomorrow evening. So it's just a welcome message presenting themselves, their student advisor. The job of the student advisor will be during orientation week to bring their group, so all the advisees, to all the workshops that week. So it's a pretty packed week. There's loads and loads of workshops. For example, you've got they're going to take the groups to get a SIM card. There'll be banking. The banks will be on campus. There will be the CVEC, which is something you have to pay to be a student in France. The schedule is packed. I suppose that will be shared. So every incoming student should get their schedule by probably tomorrow evening. Is this going to be shared also in the chat? I don't know, maybe we could do that. But basically, the whole week is packed, especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And please tell your child to go to as many workshops as possible, because it will help them. We get a lot of questions about phones. During orientation, each student supervisor will take their group to Free Mobile, which is a phone provider here in France. So it's cheap. Usually the students get a 20 euros a month SIM card, which allows them to call unlimited in the US. That's a really good plan. This is not mandatory. If your child wants to keep their home SIM card, they can. If they want to go with a different phone provider, they can. But as most students go with Free Mobile, we take time to take all the students to Free Mobile during the orientation week. They can get a SIM card and be in contact with you, and at least they've got a SIM card as soon as they get here. Very important. So we've got a new partnership with a bank starting this semester. It's called BNP, and they're going to be on campus for the whole week of orientation. So each orientation group in the schedule, so your child will see when it's scheduled that week, they have a time allocated to meet with the bank on campus during orientation week. Make the most of it. It's rare that they come on campus. It will make things a lot easier for the process. Usually it takes about 3 weeks for the whole process to open the bank account to go through. Start it as soon as possible, okay? And especially, they have more staff available during orientation, so it'll be a lot easier for the students to start it on campus instead of scheduling an appointment later on, going to the agency. They might forget documents, they'll have to come back another time. Make the most, tell your child to go and meet the banks on campus during orientation. They won't need to bring many documents. All they'll need to bring is a copy of the passport, their acceptance letter, which they got from admissions. If they are US citizens, they'll have to sign the W-9 form, so they'll need the US Social Security number, and the proof of housing. So if they've got independent housing, it could be a bill. If your child is living in a residence, we've sent them to their AUP email a letter. It's a form. They just need to print that out and give it to the bank. Are there any questions, Donna, about banking? I bet there'll be a few.
And I'm actually still answering shuttle questions.
I can answer them too.
We do not have any specific banking questions as of yet. Okay. I do have a question about the SIM cards. You said that most students should switch their SIM cards. Are you speaking about four-year students? I believe someone mentioned the other day that semester students usually just use their US-based phone and a SIM card for those few months.
So visiting students who are here for one semester, Free Mobile, they sign up, it's a contract, but they can cancel the contract whenever they want without paying any fees. So even visiting students here for one semester usually get a SIM card. It's cheaper than a home SIM card. It's a really good deal. And as I said, if they get a 20 euro a month plan, they can call unlimited to the US on mobile phones, so they can contact their families. The US and over 100 countries, not only the US.
Perfect.
Again, we don't get any money out of this. This is for the students, and it's not mandatory. If they want to go with somebody else or keep the phone plan, that's fine. It's a personal choice.
Sure. So that actually leads into my next question, which was, I have a prepaid SIM card with a French phone number. Would that be for the student? Is the SIM they get at orientation better than the commercial prepaid French SIM card? I think it's up to you. I think that's a personal choice between you and your student as to what is the best option for your family. I think that's it. Okay, so banking. I do have a question about banking and then also signing leases, Miss Siham. So this is actually going to be between both you and Jan. Jan, and students under 18 cannot open a bank account unless they have a parent here with them.
So
that one for me?
Students under 18, they can open a bank account if at least one of the parents are there with them when they start the process. In the past, it used to be both parents. Now only one of the two parents is enough. So that's a big plus. If the student is under 18 and the parents aren't there, then they have to wait until they turn 18 to be able to open a bank account. I would just like to add, visiting students in general who are AUP just for one semester shouldn't open a bank account. This is only for students here for at least a year.
Perfect. I will also say I was a parent of a child that was not 18 when she arrived at AUP, and we were able to set up the bank account after she turned 18 with the help of the student development help desk, and they were delightful in helping her get all of that taken care of. So if your student is not, if you're not there with your student and they're not able to start that process, we will help your student start that process once they turn 18. Siham, can you speak to the housing lease agreement for the 18-year-olds or under 18-year-olds? Because it is
Yes.
a little bit different in France, and we do have some regulation around that.
The lease cannot be signed by minors, but it can be signed by a parent or guardian on their behalf. In our welcome email, we've included a note that if your student is under 18 and will not be accompanied by a parent or guardian, to let us know, and we'll send you the lease in advance for you to sign via email and send back to us scanned.
Perfect. Thank you. How long will it take for a bank account to be set up, Jan?
So usually it takes about 3 weeks.
Perfect. Perfect.
It should be less, but we'll keep it at 3 weeks.
Okay. Perfect. If a student is there for a semester, I know we just said they don't have to open a bank account.
No, they
Can they
shouldn't.
open a bank account? They shouldn't. Okay. Perfect.
But
Thank you.
So if a student at AUP is only there for one semester and they absolutely need or want to open a bank account, they should come and talk to me, and we'll talk about it first and see why they absolutely need it, and then we'll contact the bank. But
Perfect.
students here for one semester shouldn't open a bank account.
Awesome. Is there a required minimum balance to be kept in the student's account?
No minimum balance, but students need to put funds, so there's no minimum, within the first month of the bank account being opened.
Perfect. Do students need to bring their social security card when opening an account?
So the US Social Security number?
Yes. Do they need their card, or they just need the social security
they'll
number?
need the number. So US citizens will need their social security number when they start the process of opening the bank account, because they'll need to fill out the W-9 form, which is a tax form for the US, and they need to fill in the US social security number.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Why is the bank account mandatory for someone that's there for degree seeking as well as just for a year?
So students staying in Paris for more than 1 year, if they're not European, they're going to have to renew their visa. To renew your visa, you need a French bank account. It's mandatory. So that's the #1 reason. So first year abroad students who are here for one year, it's optional. If they decide to open a bank account, that's fine. It's probably more helpful. It will help them throughout the year for medical reimbursements, to get the student discount metro card. But they don't absolutely need to do it because they're not going to renew the visa. Whereas first year students, transfer students, graduate students, they will need to renew the visa, and by so need to have a French bank account.
Perfect. Should an EU student open a French bank account? I don't actually think that they necessarily need to.
That's a personal choice. They don't need to. Same thing. Now, I was going to talk about the metro card after. There's a student discount metro card called Imaginar. It's a year-long card. So this is for students staying at AUP for 2 semesters minimum. And to get this card, you need to pay with a French bank card. So that's one incentive to get a French bank account.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple of questions. How do we fund the account? We fund our students' accounts through TransferWise. It's called Wise. I've got that on my phone, and I wire them. I send them money through TransferWise. It gives me the mid-market exchange rate, and it is typically has less fees than my bank wiring to them. That is personal preference. That is up to you. You can send them Western Union. You can send them a wire. You can send them, you can send them with cash and have them deposit cash. That they will have to hold the cash until they have their bank account open. And that can be a little scary. That makes my heart pitter patter a little bit. If there is a question about if there's no bank account for 3 weeks, how will loan disbursement be handled? You would need student accounting will actually write a check to your student and can hold that check for your student until their bank account is open, and then they can deposit the check into their bank account. So that's that's how we handle that. Can you open an
I
account
think
with
so.
US
Donna,
dollars?
can I add a word about this?
Yeah,
Donna?
please.
So for the loan check,
Yeah.
I think student accounting services now can do a wire transfer, which
Oh, perfect.
once the account is open will be a lot quicker, because the
Perfect.
first time you deposit a check, it takes 20 open days for it to appear on the account. So that's another 3 weeks. So a wire transfer is a lot easier.
All right, awesome. Killian, any you want to jump in with here?
Yeah, lots of more questions. See how maybe we can go back to you for a couple of minutes. So Kara is asking, is there an opportunity to get a list of students in the building, or of names of the students in the building to connect prior to arrival?
Prior to arrival, no, we're subject to FERPA regulations around the privacy of student information, so we cannot share that student information with others. However, we are putting things in place for the students to be able to meet their peers on London Day and after London Day in the residence. So we'll definitely do that.
Excellent, thank you. Can students not living in AUP housing join a neighborhood tour, and how would they find out when that is if they can?
They can definitely join. It'll be a little bit difficult for them to know in advance because student advisors will be determining when they go on the tour based on the rate of arrivals and how settled everyone is, because we try to get as many people as possible to be able to join the tour. But if you are thinking of a specific residence because you know which neighborhood you're in, stop by and we'll try to tell us as much as possible. And if anything, we'll be able to meet you and welcome you to AUP.
Awesome. Next question about sort of the timing and how long the check-in process will take. Shannon Marks is saying that they're moving in at 9 a.m. on Saturday, and they just want to know how much time they should plan to reserve for check-in.
About an hour to an hour and a half, just because I'm expecting that any parents, families, students who are already in Paris are going to show up at 9 a.m. So that might be our first wave. But the actual process will take about 40 minutes. But just in case of wait times, you'll still have plenty of time the rest of the day to go get items for the room.
Excellent. And if my daughter's renting a private apartment, does she just go to campus to check in on Tuesday, or how does that work for students who aren't housed for us?
For private apartment, meaning independent housing outside of the university?
Yeah.
They can head directly to that private apartment. They do not need to check in for the housing with the university as they've secured it independently. They would just come for their first day of orientation to campus.
Excellent. Thank you. That was for Helene. What can be used to hang things on the walls in their rooms, just in terms of respecting the residences? What would you suggest?
I think we should ask Delaney that question.
Delaney, go ahead.
Delaney's really good at putting things on the wall and taking them off of the wall without destroying the wall.
Yes. From my experience, my personal experience, my friend's experience, we have used command hooks and strips, or we have used the wall hanging fixtures that have existed already in the apartment. I did not want to put any nails on my wall. So I did not do that. I don't believe we are allowed to, so we just didn't. I brought command strips and command hooks from the US, but there are places in Paris where you can get them. Office Max, we spend a lot of time there picking up supplies. My friend just taped stuff to the wall. But yeah, just no forcing stuff into the wall. That was my general rule of thumb. I think Fiham would agree with me on that.
And with the trick with command strips and command hooks is that they work if you're very careful when removing them as well. So if you kind of tear them out the wall, they're still going to cause paint to chip. But if you're careful about putting them on and off, then you have a chance to not cause any damage.
Yes. Okay. There's some questions about luggage storage, which I would also like to ask Delaney. Where did you store your luggage in your first year? And do you want to share with us where you lived?
Sure. So to answer the first part of the luggage question, there's no really easy way to store the luggage, as I found, much to my dismay. Kind of just have to live with the fact that a suitcase is always going to be visible in your little 19 square meter apartment. I was in USIC, so what I ended up doing, I believe, is I kind of put mine next to my little closet, and it honestly works fine. It was not in my way at all. Honestly, I used it for storage, for sweaters in the winter or in the summer when I wasn't wearing them, so I could have more room for summer clothes. But yeah, it's it seems like a pain, but you just kind of get over it and get used to it and find the place that it's the least in the way.
Awesome. Thank you. I am going to now say our email addresses, and we can also put them in the chat. If you have questions and you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm at parents@aup.edu. So that's parent with an S, parents@aup.edu. Any questions that you have, send them my way. I am in Paris right now, so I will get to them overnight. But we will respond to you within 24 hours and get your questions answered. Your students can reach out to housing@aup.edu if they have specific questions about housing, and then also to student development@aup.edu if your students have questions. Those are their two resources. I'm the parent resource, so if you have questions, I'm your first point of contact, and I will loop in my colleagues as necessary as we need. We're trying to keep up with all of your questions, so thank you. And thank you, Killian, for helping out with this. Jan, can we come back to the to another shuttle question real quick?
Yeah, yes.
How will you find the students? So as part of they fill out their form and we know where they're coming in and we know where their flights are. So how will we know where you are? What are you going to be wearing?
Okay, so firstly, when they sign up for the shuttle bus, they give their flight details, the arrival gate. I double check on the airport website before they arrive, which gate they're arriving at. I send my helpers, so they should meet them at the arrival gate. But then again, as I said, on Friday, I'll be sending an email to each student who signed up with where I will be exactly. So the terminal, the gate, I'll tell them exactly where I am. There'll be an AUP booth, so there'll be AUP posters there. I should have an AUP t-shirt on, the black one. And they'll have my phone number. So if they still can't find me, it can happen. It's an airport, it's a bit crazy at times. They give me a call and I'll tell them exactly where to go.
Awesome. Do we have a shuttle from Orly?
No, we don't. Only from
Charles de Gaulle.
CDG, yeah.
CDJ.
Airport.
Okay, perfect. We do recommend cab taxi service. Okay, Killian.
Yeah, so can they open a bank account with US dollars?
So to deposit money, it'll have to be euros.
Okay, thank you for that.
Perfect.
For those who will be there for 2 semesters as opposed to 1 semester, would you suggest that they open a bank account, or can they get away with not opening one?
So again, it's a personal choice. If the student is there for 2 semesters and does not need to renew the visa, then they don't have to open a bank account. But again, in order to get the student discount Metro card, they will need to pay with a French bank card. So unless they know somebody who can pay for them, they can't get that card because they need to pay with a French bank card.
Perfect. I'm going to take the question about parents attending workshops with students. Student orientation is for students. We ask parents not attend with their students. We have the parent orientation activities for you on the 29th and 30th. Orientation is specifically set up for your students to become familiar with their surroundings, both their housing and their school and their new friends, their new best friends in some cases. And so we ask that parents kind of help them move in, help them get some stuff, maybe plan a couple of dinners with them, but let them have their orientation, let them go. That's what I wanted to say about that. I also want to address that I feel for all of you. You guys, this is a big deal. So, as we're walking through this, like, it's totally okay to be like, oh my gosh, what did we do? When we arrived in Amsterdam in 2018, my kid looked at me and said, it's really far away. I want to go home. So that could happen. I'm going to kick it back to Delaney for just a moment, and I'm going to ask you, as a student advisor, what advice would you give to, and as a student that arrived on campus 2 years ago, what advice would you give to people as they're kind of making this step? Like, what would you want them to know, to think?
What advice then? I can really speak from the student side, as I've never been a parent dropping my kid off at college. But for me, on my own landing day, I was very overwhelmed. I was very tired. My residence was not necessarily my first choice. And so I was a little bit stubborn in moving in. But I would just encourage everyone on both sides, parents and students, to be really patient and to just see how things go. Don't make snap judgments on the first day. Give it a week or so, give it a month. Do whatever you need to do to make the apartment yours, to make AUP feel like home. I ended up loving my residence for all my reservations that I had. So it worked out in the end. It just takes a little bit of patience and understanding of everyone's situation, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We do have a question about the orientation retreat for degree seeking and transfer students coming in on Saturday. So for students that are checking in on Saturday, are students that are planning to matriculate with us for 4 years. The retreat will be, the question is, will students go to the first orientation activity by themselves or in a group led by someone? And I believe that more information will be sent out about this to students, because I don't know the answer to this. Jan, do you have an answer for me on that one? And there you go.
So I don't have all the information about the retreat. I know where it will be. So it'll be on Sunday or in the morning and afternoon at the Bois de Vincennes. Mark, the vice president, will be sending out an email to all the first year and transfer students tomorrow with all the information there.
Perfect. Thank you. So your students really need to be keeping a close eye on their AUP email, because a lot of information is going to start coming to them in the next 24 to 48 hours. Just kind of as we get to this point, things are going to start ramping up. They'll hear from their student advisors. They're going to hear from Mark. They're going to get information about landing and all of that good stuff. Siham, can we go back really quickly to housing for a moment? Beds, rooms, all that good stuff, those are assigned already. How does that work?
Those have to be pre-assigned. It's a random assignment, and we have to have those records because the bed is also a part of what is included in the inventory. And so we have to know which student was assigned to which bed. So they'll receive that information upon arrival, because we never know what last minute switches we have to make.
Awesome. Thank you. We do have a couple questions about medical care. The session that we did last night was for, we talked to Kevin Four and Anne-Laure Jaudry about healthcare and whatnot. So that will be posted tomorrow. So I encourage you to go back and take a look at that video. Can students keep their US number? That is, both of my children have kept their US number. I just call my cell phone provider and they suspend their account. I just let them know that they're overseas. They're not going to be using it. And we have kept their account, or we have kept their numbers. Okay. If your students are having issues logging into their AUP email, or if they're having trouble receiving messages from us, please email admissions@aup.edu to let your admissions counselor know. Parents not coming for landing day, what would you recommend for visiting students and where to stay? That is a really good question. So we will have a family weekend in October. More information will be out about that shortly. As to where you'd like to stay, that is a major personal preference question. I like to stay close to where my children are staying, and they don't love for me to stay close to where I'm staying. So I tend to just stay wherever I find a great Airbnb or a great deal on a hotel. So that's one of those personal preference questions. Killian, you got any ones you want to throw out there?
There are a few questions around eSIMs, Jan. What are your recommendations on that? Will they still need a local SIM if they have a new phone with an eSIM? How should they set themselves up? Is that something that you've done in the past?
eSIM, if they go with Free Mobile, they can get that online. There's a website. Their students advisor can help them with that, actually. They can't get that in the free store where they'll be going with the student advisor. They can get it online through the free website. So
excellent. Student advisors could always advise on that as well.
Yeah, exactly. They can explain to them how that works.
Okay, perfect. I do see the response that AUP admissions has not responded. Why don't you go ahead and email me at parents@aup.edu and we'll get them to respond. Dates for family weekend in October will be the 19th through the 21st. Siham, I've got a question for you. If another sibling wants to come and visit their sister, can they stay in the dorm or would she need to rent a place?
It depends on which residence it is, because different residences will have different overnight guest policies, but all of them will, even the ones that allow overnight guests, will require you notifying either the housing office or the front desk at the partner residence. We've actually sent today a reminder of for people to fill out the arrival form, and a reminder included the AUP housing regulations that were initially in the student's AUP status page that they had to agree to before they booked AUP housing. We've just sent that email out today as a reminder. So I would encourage your student to check their AUP email and their home email and read through those policies, and they'll be able to see what applies to their residents.
Perfect. Will there be someone that will help students navigate getting from their housing to their school?
When the student arrives to the residence during landing day, the student advisors and the RAs and the staff will actually, in the neighborhood tour, point out the metro stop and how to get from the residence to campus.
Perfect. Actually, all right. The specific visa question that was asked about renewing visa when they turn 18. AUP will help them convert their minor visa into a residency card. A French bank account will be required for that, but there's some nuances to that. So Student Immigration Services will be in contact with your student and will help them through that process. So it's on a case-by-case basis, really, and just know that we have done this and we will help you and we will help your student, and it will be so great. Killing any ones you can see?
No, I think just to say, because there's a few questions popping up here and there where we also have great answers in the Parent and Family Resource Guide. So I encourage you to check that out. We've shared that via email. For those of you who will be with us in Paris, you'll get a physical copy, I believe, as well. And then if you navigate to the website that we've put in the chat, Parents and Families, you'll be able to find that in the sidebar as well and download a PDF version there. We've put a lot of work into trying to provide as much useful information for you as you're embarking on this journey with us. And so if you go through that, it'll also have tips about the kind of conversations you might have with your student throughout the first year, but also throughout their time at AUP. And it answers a lot of common questions in terms of emergency phone numbers and contacts at AUP and so forth. So you'll find that a lot of the questions that you have as you're starting this experience with us, they'll be answered there for you. And we always recommend it as sort of a first point of contact for you to check in with, is to look at that Parent Resource Guide and make sure you've consumed that information and internalized it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, we're right about at the hour, and in the interest of the fact that we said this would be an hour, I want to say thank you to everyone that has joined us today, both on our screen and in the gallery. Thank you for all of your questions. Thank you for all your concern. Thank you for getting your students to this point. Does anyone on any of my colleagues have any last minute advice? Delaney, anything else you want to throw out? That Sinham, Jan? No.
I just saw a question about sending the information for the shuttle bus on Thursday for students traveling Friday morning. Okay, that's fine. I'll send it on Thursday, and then for students who sign up after that, I'll send them the email too. But in any case, they should check on emails, even if they are already in the plane. When they get off the plane, check your emails. You'll get all the information there.
Yep, absolutely. Look for the people in the AUP t-shirts. We're super excited to welcome your students on campus. We're very excited for this year to get started. I love September. I love the end of August and 1st of September. It's fantastic. It's like so much possibility. So thank you again. Thank you all for joining us. Again, if we did not get to your question, we will reach out to you. Reach out to me at parents@aup.edu. Happy to answer questions, and we look forward to seeing all of you soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.